You are welcome to this episode of Functional Marriage for Singles. And today we are going to work on the topic. That is, our discussion will center on the topic that says lasting marriage, a function of a solid foundation. Lasting marriage, a function of a solid foundation. In essence, the topic is saying that for somebody to enjoy a long-lasting marriage, a marriage that will endure for long, the foundation of such marriage must be very solid. If the foundation of marriage is solid, there is high tendency, high likelihood of one enjoying such marriage for a very long time. What is the objective of this very topic? The main objective of this topic is to explore, analyze the importance of a solid foundation to a lasting marriage. The objective is for us to explore, to look deeply into the role or effect of a solid foundation in a marriage. How will it affect the marriage positively? How will it affect the marriage in such a way that the marriage will be very long and beautiful? Having said this, we are going to be looking at how a good foundation can help in stabilizing and or prolong the life of a union in marriage. How a good foundation can be an asset, can be useful in having a stable and prolonged marriage. To get the best out of this topic, we need to understand what foundation is all about. If we really want to get the best out of this discussion, we must first and foremost understand properly the word foundation. In essence, what is foundation? What is foundation? Foundation could be defined as an underlying base or support on which something rests. Foundation is the underlying support or base on which something is resting. A structure is designed to be built on a foundation. No structure can exist without a base or foundation. No structure can exist in a vacuum. So when we talk about foundation, we are talking about what supports a structure or a building. What supports whatever we are trying to erect. There must be a base on which such a thing will land or rest. So I want to start by telling you that there are two angles or meanings to the word foundation. There are two perspectives to the word foundation. There are ways, two ways majorly, that we can look into in approaching the word foundation. The first one can be regarded as principle foundation. Yes, at this junction, I must tell you that the word foundation do have all other meanings, such as an organization, funding of people, helping people. But the basic or common tenet is that it is for our support. That is why when they say a foundation may be named after somebody, what they are doing is to support. They want people to come and rest on them to be able to leap forward in life, probably sponsoring their education, probably helping them one way or the other. But there are two common meanings or perspective to every foundation. One is the principal foundation. What does that mean? This is known as a basis, such as tenet, principle, or axiom, upon which something stands or is supported. Here we are talking about the reasons, the underlying principles on which an action is based. The principal meaning of foundation has to do with something such as an idea, a principle, a fact, which serves or provides support for your action. So principles are foundations for the action you are taking or something that you are doing. For every action you are taking, there must be an underlying factor, underlying reasons. Some people, they will not eat outside their home. There must be, it's a principle. So when such a person says, I don't eat outside, there is a principle behind it. He must have developed something as the foundation of that action. If you can probe, you can probe further. If you can try as much as possible to go deeper into the life of that person, you will discover that that decision was based on something. Something must be underneath the decision. That is what we refer to as principle. This has to do with underlying principles upon which an institution is founded. This may be stated, it may be written, it might be an unwritten basis for the existence of something. Principle could be a written document, unwritten document. It could be stated, but whether written or unwritten, feasible or unfeasible or infeasible rather, it is the basis for something that is happening. In essence, this is not physical or tangible as in touching. Principles as a function of events are not touchable. They are not feasible or tangible as in touching. They may be written down, they may be stated, but they are not something that can be carried as in physical things. But they are so much important that as soon as such principles packed up, whatsoever they support falls like a pack of cards. The principles I've just discussed with you are so important that if they fail if they packed up, whatever they are supporting, whatever we are doing based on those principles, has already failed. It means if this is, this will be. Principles are, if these things are, then such and such could be. But as long as those principles are no longer obtainable, then what you are doing becomes a failure or a wrong thing. That means the foundation has cracked. The foundation has given way. Then whatever they are holding will go down straight. So you can't joke with principles. For instance, marriage is believed to thrive on such things like love, peace, tolerance. That is, marriage is expected to thrive better in the atmosphere of peace, love, joy. Those are part of the principles that will uphold marriages. Meaning that if all those things are absent, there is likelihood that such marriage will fail. Let's move further. Now I want to go to the concrete foundation. I will want to explain this concrete foundation in such a way that you have to follow it very well. It will be a very easy job for me. My late father was a building contractor, which has really exposed me to something about concrete foundation. So when we talk about concrete foundation, we are talking about usually stones or concrete structure that supports a building from underneath. Concrete foundation is in most cases stone or concrete structure that supports a building from underneath. More, a body or ground upon which something is built or overlaid is a ground. You can call it a body upon which something is built or is overlaid. The following things are very important. It is physical, tangible, and solid, such that it could be seen, touched, or moved. A good example is a limestone foundation. When we talk about concrete foundation, we are talking about the foundation that supports a building. When you build on such foundation, you build physical things on it. The earlier one that talks about principle, you build invisible things on them, ideas, movement. But this one is talking about how you can build, and you build things on them as well. You can build physical things. But the most important thing about concrete foundation is that it's very solid. So you may be wondering, what is all this to us? We are going there. When you understand foundation very well, when we now move into the foundation of marriage, you will understand why many marriages are crumbling today. Let us check the word of an author. What do we want to really understand here? Why are we so concerned about the foundation of marriage? Why can't we leave marriage and let everybody have his own marriage the way he wants? Why the foundation? The truth is that the foundation, as earlier stated, is what gives a structure strength, and the ability to stand. So, if marriages will be strengthened and will be able to stand the test of time, foundations are very, very important. Or let's hear the word of a great author, David Allan Coe. He said, "It is not the beauty of a building you should look at. It is the construction of the foundation that will stand the test of time." I love it. It is not the beauty of a building that you should look at, but the construction of the foundation that will determine the strength of the structure of the building, that will allow the building to stand the test of time. The point here is that the beauty of a building lies in its solid foundation. Otherwise, the building can collapse and the beauty lost if it cannot stand the test of time. In essence, wind will blow, rain will fall. What will uphold the building is the solid foundation. No matter how beautiful a building is, wind will blow and blow it. Rain will fall and fall upon it. But what will uphold it? What will make it possible for such a building to wither the storm will be the type of foundation it has. It is the same thing with marriage. When we get there, we are often carried away by the beauty in wedding, or the beautiful wedding, that we are less concerned about the beautiful marriage. We are not bothered much about what follows after the wedding, but what we are interested in is to have a beautiful wedding that the whole world will appreciate. Fine, I've said that. But a beautiful wedding requires a foundation that will endure. While wedding needs no special foundation, marriage requires a foundation that will endure. In essence, how beautiful, lasting, and fulfilling a marriage will be can be determined to a greater extent by its foundation. I hope we are together. I've just said that how beautiful, lasting, and fulfilling a marriage will be can be determined to a very large extent by its foundation. I want to give you this. I put it down while I was working on this. I said, if you meet and marry someone on the street, he or she will escape through the corridor without any trace. If you meet and marry someone on the street, that very person, either the man or the woman in the relationship, can easily escape through the corridor or the back door without any trace. What does that suggest? If there is no solid foundation about our relationship, it becomes very difficult to trace the person in case of any trouble. Because when a needle is not having thread, it is very, very difficult to locate. But a needle that has long thread, you can use the thread to draw the needle to yourself. I hope you are following me. Principles of marriage have been well explored at the expense of the concrete foundation of marriage. Many do not realize that as much as we have principles as foundation of anything we do, we also have concrete foundation. And I personally believe in two legs, standing on 2 feet, because you have a balance. So, the principles of marriage have been explored so much. Many books written, many great authors have discussed the principles of a lasting marriage, a successful marriage. They will tell you the things that can uphold a good marriage or a successful marriage. Honestly speaking, I don't my carve for them. We need all these things. But I'm coming from another angle this moment. I want to concretize the foundation of marriage. I want to speak. I want to concentrate first and foremost on the concrete foundation of marriage. I will reserve the principles till another opportunity. How we also get there one day is a must. We can't deny the fact that marriage thrives on some principles. But there is a concrete foundation for marriage. If those the concrete foundation is neglected, the principal foundation of marriage might not work well. Let us look at it from this angle. When we discuss principles of marriage, to me, we are discussing a floating principle or a floating foundation. The foundation that ought to rest on another foundation is another foundation that's supposed to be a layer. So we discuss the surface layer about marriage. That is one of, you will remember that in the other episodes that we have done, that the essence of this initiative is to begin to help us to understand the institution of marriage. What are the things responsible for failure? How ways we can do better? And so, one of the things observed by the special grace of God is the fact that the concrete foundation of marriage is not well explored. So we rely too much on the principal aspect. If you want to have a successful wedding, you must do this, you must have this, you must, yes, beautiful. But what of the concrete foundation that will have helped us to erect a solid wedding that will make our marriage last longer than it has always been? So, my main concern this morning is the concrete foundation. I have given you a perfect definition of concrete foundation. Now that you know that we need it, you will now follow me. Before I put it into marriage, I want to really give you my idea and expertise on the concrete foundation. Here we are talking about concrete structure on which the building is erected. It is made of 3 layers. While principles are so many, you can have 1,000,001 principles that will sustain marriage. Concrete foundation for marriage are just 3 layers, but we cannot finish discussing it in an episode. I hope we'll be able to finish one today. Let's quickly understand the concrete foundation very well. The first layer of the concrete foundation is called blind. The blind is the mixture of gravel, cement, sand, and water, which is the first layer of a solid foundation. The blind, they call it the blind. The blind is the mixture of gravel, water, sand, cement. At times, when the place is waterlogged, they could put rod to solidify it. That is the first layer in foundation of a good building. Somebody said, what are we talking about in this episode? How is that? Does that concern marriage? Yes, marriage is a building. You build marriage. Marriage does not happen. The problem with us about marriage is that we assume that marriage is just something that comes about and can regulate itself. It's like building a structure. Don't forget, marriage will lead to family and some other things. So marriages must have a solid foundation that is so concretized that winds will not be able to blow our marriages away any longer. So when we talk about the foundation, solid or concrete foundation, we talk about number one, the blind. So what is the essence of this blind? So when you see a house as from today, when they say we want to start the foundation of a house and they begin to dig the ground, they want to put 3 layers there. The first one is the blind. They put it on the surface ground in what seems like a gutter. When they do foundation, you see the lines, it will be like a gutter. They put it inside to serve 2 main purposes. I will relate it to marriage as we move on. Number one purpose of the blind is that it smoothens the surface of the ground known as the level, so that the building will not be undulating. The blind, that is the gravel they lay down on the ground of foundation, serves 2 main purposes. Number one, it gives the level, that is, it smoothens the land, it gives you a level upon which the building can be of equal level, such that the building will not be undulating. Go and check any foundation, no matter how beautiful the land, no matter how great the diggers, no matter the excavator, no matter whatever they use to make the foundation, there will be some low land and high land in that foundation. Am I talking to somebody? But by the time they put the blind, that is what they will use to take the level. It will now be of equal surface. Any line will be of equal surface. They can dam, they can step it down, they can raise it high, but it will be a deliberate action with equal level for that area. Is it clear to you? The second effect or function of that blind is to prevent water from underground from soaking the building, which may lead to collapse. When they put that thing you call blind in the foundation, they are putting it to suppress water that may want to be oozing from the under the ground to soak your block, to soak your house. Am I making sense? If you don't have that, there are holes that water can be coming from under the ground. But the moment you place that very thing, you have already blocked for that line that you have dug. That very blind will rest. That is one of the reasons it is called blind. It will blind all the surfaces whereby water can just be oozing to come and soak your house. No matter what you use to build your house, even if it is stone, if water continue to come, that's why people don't want to build in waterlogged area. If water continue to soak your house, it's a matter of time. The house will give way. That is why you have houses around waterlogged area giving way unexpectedly. over years. Water will have soaked them very well. But if you have that blind, it will help to reduce the level of water that can come to the surface. Having said this, we move to the second layer. The second layer in any foundation is what I call set blocks. It could be block. You can also use concrete. If you have big money, that one you can just put rod, concrete. You use plank and carve it out. But in most cases, it's a set block. Immediately you do the blind. On that very blind, the next step will be to put blocks round. They will shock it with cement. Then you begin to wonder, what has that got to do with marriage? You will see as we go on very well. Let us understand that very well. The purpose of that next layer, that is set block, shocked with cement, is very, very simple. It will also perform two main purposes. Number one, it will prevent the foundation from being eroded from the sideways. Am I talking to somebody? There are external and internal functions. The external function is to prevent erosion. When you allow erosion to come, when you have a ground that you just carve out and you didn't put such blocks, water can come through the side of the land that you have carved out, and water will disintegrate it, and the danger, as it is being disintegrated, the building will be giving way. The building will be coming down gradually. And what the problem with a building is that after a building is set, the moment an area of the building caves in, the building will eventually collapse. It might take some time. That's what they look for when they are trying to look at buildings that must be demolished before it causes trouble or catastrophe. They are looking for a building that is now undulating, bending. And what makes a building bend is that the portion of that bent area had gone down, sunk into the ground a bit. It might not be feasible. Are we together? So they use that block. The internal function it performs is this. Once you fill your foundation with sand or anything, mostly sand or granite, there is what we call expansion rate. That very portion we want to expand, and it's about to expand. The danger is that if it is not curtailed, it will give way on the long run. But as long as those set blocks, that is what will stop it will curtail the expansion from going beyond necessary stage, so that it will not reach an alarming stage. So it helps in curtailing the expansion that happens in order not to destroy the foundation. That is, when the prayer is much on the very foundation, because don't forget, the foundation we are talking about is carved out of a piece of land. So it wants to go beyond, but that block will serve as guide to stop it from going out of hand. Number three, the third layer. The topmost layer is made of solid concrete mixture known as German floor. I'm talking about standard foundation. Forget about traditional or local foundation where you say, just help me to put it, just help me. Hey, it's dangerous. But once the third layer is put, it's known as German floor. The German floor is a mixture of granite, gravel, sand, and cement with water. When this one is mixed, they always want it to be strong. And why must it be very strong? I will tell you now. That very present surface, flat surface, once it is laid, it is assumed, the first function, that the level you have taken on the blind, are you following me now? You have now capped it with the topmost floor or German floor, such that if there was any defect in your level during the blind, it has to be corrected. That is the final opportunity in foundation. It has to be corrected by the German floor, so that your house will not be undulating. It must not bend. Are you following me? So when that German floor is laid, now it has to be very, very strong, because it will be pressurized so much that it can give way. What are the prayers that will give it? Remember, that is the level that will carry a whole house. When you start building your house, you are building it on the foundation, but that is the flat surface. Now when it's now carrying, it will get to a stage, if it is a decking, you will put decking on it. The prayer is still on it. You raise it up for the first floor, the prayer will still be. If you can put as many deckings as you like. You have solidified the foundation. Finally, you will eventually roof the house. When the house is roofed, the roofs that you are looking at has its own weight. Some they use rod, iron rod, to construct the roof. So all the weights we are talking about, they exert pressure on the German floor. Am I talking to somebody? Whatever that's laid underneath, scientifically, all that you are placing upon it, it will be feeling their prayer. So it has to be a solid foundation. So the prayer of additional layers of blocks, the decking and the roofing is there. So it must be very solid, as it is being helped by the blind and the foundation blocks. Can you now remember the remaining two layers underneath? So the three of them will come together and be working very effectively. A solid foundation in marriage must have these three concrete layers, such as the blind, the set blocks, and the German floors. I hope we are still together. A solid foundation in any marriage that will support a successful marriage, that will lead to a last-longing marriage, a fulfilling marriage, must have those three layers. In the foundation I have just discussed or described above, this is a standard foundation. It does not mean that somebody cannot build a house without bypassing one or two of those steps. Am I passing across something? Having said this, how can we relate all this to marriage? A solid foundation in marriage must have all these three concrete layers: the blind, the set blocks, and German floor. This can be summarized in the words of Gordon Hinckley, while he said, "You can't build a great building on a weak foundation. You must have a solid foundation if you are going to have a strong superstructure." That is the word of Gordon. Gordon says, you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. You must have a solid foundation if you are going to have a strong superstructure. So I am bold to say today that to build a lasting marriage requires a solid foundation. The structure of such foundation I will give you now. But I want to let you realize now that most marriages crumble because they do not have solid foundation. Marriages are crumbling these days more than ever before. While I was very, very young, the foundation of marriages were so solid. You cannot railroad your parents into marriage. I'm getting married. In fact, in this period we are, many daughters or sons invite their parents to wedding. Is that not funny? I am saying that they extend invitation to their parents. Daddy, I'm getting married on the 30th or so. I hope you'll be around. I hope you will be chanced. While I was younger, the parents will play serious role in whom you marry, when you are ready. But we'll talk about that later. But today, the foundation is so weak, and that is why we are having divorce cases all over. So having said this, I want to go straight to a solid foundation in marriage. To build a solid foundation in marriage, the three layers in marriage are: one, the first layer is God. In fact, I wanted to have a board that I would have loved to draw all these things, but I want you to, because of time, just follow me and you will get it clearly. The first layer is God. The second layer is the family. And the third layer is solid love, as in the case of the couple to be or the spouses. Do not forget, my listeners, I have taken you through the two types of or perspectives to foundation. Our topic is lasting marriage, a function of solid foundation. Then I have been able to explain to you that there are two perspectives to any foundation. We have the principle. We call it principle foundation. That is, everything you are doing is based on principles. That's the foundation of your effort. For the second one, I said concrete foundation. In the principle foundation, people have tried for us in the area of marriage. If you want to have a successful marriage, you must do this, you must do. Those are the things that they consider as the principles of successful or a highly successful marriage. But they have not been working too much on the concrete aspect. Then before I decided now to put you through on the concrete aspect, I have explained what concrete foundation is all about. 3 layers: the blind, the set block, and the German floor. Then I now come to the conclusion that for a successful marriage that will have a beautiful foundation, the 3 layers are God, the family, and love. So if I were to draw the diagram, I will put the vertical line, horizontal, the horizontal line, the baseline, Abi. That is the horizontal. I would like to put God on this left side. I put family here. I will now construct the 2 vertical lines, Abi, or whatever you horizontal, whichever you call it. Now, I will now put the 2 to meet at love. So I will pick them one after the other. It will take me the next 3 episodes. But I want to sound a strong warning. There is tendency for you to dismiss all these things. That what is all this for marriage? If marriage should not be consummated without all this. I want to tell you, remember I said, somebody can choose to bypass all that we have said about the foundation of a solid, a solid foundation for a building. But the person will pay with the price that nobody can imagine. Look at the collapsed buildings all over the places. All over the places. Killing people anyhow. It is the foundation that is faulty. Now, having said this, if you can follow all these things very well, we are entering into the points at which we begin to look at the foundation of marriages to determine the needed restructuring for effective and last-lasting marriages. So as I said earlier, the first layer is God. So I want to start with that first layer. So God must be the first layer of any marriage. And how? What does that mean? Let me quickly give you something. I had an experience one day that made me wonder and worry about the institution of marriage so much. What happened? On that fateful day, I followed a couple getting married to the local government premises. I was invited as a friend of the family to a wedding being consummated in the premises of our local government. As the marriage was going on, and it was not yet the turn of the couple or couple-to-be that I followed, I decided to take a stroll within the local government premises. It's a very large place. So as I was moving about trying to stretch my legs, I noticed there was a court proceedings going on within the same premises where marriages were being dissolved. As one couple after the other were being joined together in this hall A, in the adjoining hall, they were dissolving marriages. They would just say case number 5. When they talk. In fact, I forgot about the marriage I came for. I stood there. I was watching them. They were calling them. They would say, oh, we have not finished your own case. Next time. The marriage is hereby dissolved. I wondered. Many divorce cases in a single day, and many interested couple or couples to be on the same day. That one really put me at a crossroads. You can imagine my amazement that when some are rushing into marriage, some are rushing out of the union. Can you see the contradiction? Until today, many don't mind entering into the institution of marriage and spend some time and get out of the union. People don't mind all they could be a dropout. They don't mind. All that matters is that let me also enter into that institution. Then you begin to wonder. My findings point to the fact that marriage was instituted by God, which means it can never be abolished. Quote me anywhere. I don't know if you really understand what I'm talking about. That day, I had the opinion or the, if I were to present a paper that day on marriage, I would have advocated that marriage be abolished. That people should not talk about it again. Because I couldn't fathom the reason why some people will be going in through a door and some people are going out through the other door. What is the essence? So it engaged me so much in thought that I had to pray that God give me peace. What should be done to marriage? Is marriage really necessary? What is the big deal? And so on. So as I was pondering over these things, as I said, my findings point to the fact that marriage has been instituted by God, which means it can never be abrogated or abolished or shunned. Impossible. An institution created by God, as such as marriage institution, shall remain till the world ends. Check this. The Holy Scripture says, I know that whatsoever God does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, neither anything or no anything taken away from it. And funny enough, God has done this that men should fear before him. I have quoted from the Holy Scripture, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 14. And let me say this without fear. The institution of marriage deserves fear. God has created it that man will fear before God. For those that have listened to the previous episode, I gave you reasons why I wouldn't love to be talking about marriage. The person that calls himself an expert in the issue of marriage must also depend on the grace of God. It could be feared. It implies that as long as the world remains, marriage will continue to be consummated and people going into marital union. It is the will of God and no man can wish it away. As long as the world remains, marriages will continue to be, they will be tied the neuter. There is nothing, the knot will always be tied. Some people, Saturdays, Thursdays will attract people all over the world going to marriage registries, mosques, and churches to tie their marriage knot. Then the question you should ask is this: what then can man do? What is our hope? Are we going to be moving in and moving out? Garbage in, garbage out? No. What man can do is to find out what it requires to have and enjoy marriage as designed by God. God is never a failure, and he has never designed anything to fail. God is so brilliant that before he created man, he first created all that man will need to survive, to enjoy, to succeed. So, all we need to do as human beings to succeed in marriage is to find out the expectations of God. What God designed marriage to offer or to be. I want to quickly mention a great author, Timothy Keller. He said, by the concept and roots of human marriage, it is in God's own action. That is, but the concept and roots of human marriage are in God's own action. And therefore, what the Bible says about God's design for marriage is crucial. This author is not known as a pastor. He is not preaching. He said that if anybody wants to enjoy marriage, he has to go back to see from the biblical account, what God says, or how God designed, or what marriage is designed for. I love that man. In the same way, when we talk about God as the foundation of marriage, I now want to refer you back to the German floor designed foundation. The first will be the blind. Do not forget, or you recall, I said the blind perform two main functions. One, to smoothen the ground so that there will be a level playing ground. And that is the essence of God being part of one's marriage. He said in the Holy Scriptures, I will go before you. And we go and do what? Smoothen all the crooked ways or paths. So if anyone is going into marriage and puts God first as the foundation of his or her marriage, in essence, what God is going to do can be likened to the blind foundation blind, the first layer in foundation, to smoothen the. So God will go ahead and do that. The second function, as I told you, will be to prevent water from soaking the building. If water is coming from the ground and nothing is done to prevent it, the building will be soaked. After the building is soaked, it will do what? It will give way, it will collapse. So in order not to allow your marriage to collapse, you need God to be the first layer on which you will build everything. So if you want to ask me today, of all the three layers of a solid foundation, the first layer is the one carrying everything. Am I talking to someone? I hope I'm making sense. Of all the three layers, we have mentioned the blind, we have mentioned the set block, we have mentioned the German floor. Now it is the first layer, the blind, that is carrying the set block. It is that same one that is carrying the German floor. It's that one that is carrying the structure erected on German floor. Who could have done that except God, the Almighty Himself? So when God is the foundation of your marriage as number one layer, all other things that are being built will be easily corrected by God, perfected by God, smoothed by God, making things work out for you. Can you now see the reason why I've taken you through the process of foundation? Am I talking to someone? God serves as the first layer of the foundation of marriage as blind. The marriage will stand against the devices of the devil. Such marriage will be immune from external destructive agents and can never collapse. Quote me anywhere. If marriage is genuinely built on God as the foundation of any marriage, such marriage will last forever. There could be problem here and there. There could be wind blowing. There could be rain falling. Remember, we talked about wind blowing the building, rain falling on the building. With solid foundation, what happens? the building will stand solid. So if God is the foundation of any marriage, there will be rain, there will be wind, there will be a storm, there will be anything, but the building, the marriage that is built on God will never collapse. So having said this, I want to say this. What does it entail to make God the foundation of one's marriage? That is where we are missing many things in life. We just mention them in passing. We don't go into nitty-gritty. Do not forget the purpose of this very initiative. I told you that it's been sponsored by Functional Life Insights. And I told you that insights means understanding issues in a very clear way. There's nothing like jumping. It may be slow. The process might be slow, but it is everlasting and enduring. We will not just say, go and make God the foundation of your marriage. Bye-bye. Then you go out of this place, you say, what does that mean? Okay, let me go and consult somebody whether I should marry somebody or not. That is the trivial aspect of making God the foundation of one's marriage. So what does it mean? If I ask you to go and make God the foundation of your marriage, it is not just looking for a spiritualist to confirm if you can marry somebody or not. Many people will go to their imam, to their pastor, to their Ifa oracle to go and ask, should I marry this lady? Should I marry? That is the integral part. That is a kind of, it's good. I will tell you when we get there. But it is not all in all. That is where we are missing it. When we say, let God be the foundation of your marriage, you just go around, you just go and ask whether, and somebody will say, I am working on it. When you get to a point, as we are discussing, we will get to one area. I will tell you the perspectives to marriage. I have assembled 21 parties to marriage. 21 parties to marriage. We rely only on one. What is the sense in going to your pastor and say, can I marry this person? And pastor said yes. And you discover that both of you are ASAS. Won't you have to go to doctor to confirm whether it will work? So I'm coming, I'll give my recommendation with time. Marriage will never work perfectly until there is a synergy of all these parties to marriage. Marriage is not about your pastor alone. It's not about the doctor alone. It's not, there are so many parties to marriage. But if you can get these three foundations very well, these layers, all other people that will contribute, they could make mistakes. Your foundation will correct it. Am I talking to somebody? When you make mistakes in a building, it was my father's job. He was a building contractor. There were occasions there will be mistakes in construction. What my father would first ask is that, the problem is not about the foundation, the rest is small. But when it is the foundation that has problem, what you are saying is that you want to bring down everything before you can do any major repairs. But if it is the building on top of the foundation that is solid, they can manipulate the building, they can remove one wall, they can bring in another wall, they can punch this one, they can attach this one, they can extend this one, they can within the building, over the foundation. That is why a lasting marriage will need a solid foundation. And the first layer being God. Let's go further. As I said, looking for who will help you is an integral part of it. And that is why many uphold it as having God involved. The moment they go to a pastor or the imam or the Ifa oracle and they say, oh, the marriage is okay, they will say, I have involved God. After all, I asked whether I could go ahead or not. But it's more than that. It goes beyond a visit to a soothsayer. But it has to do with being deeply rooted in God. If you really want God to be the foundation of your marriage, you can't just come and visit God in a day over your marriage. You have to be rooted in God. It is then you can be talking about God being part of your marriage. Hear this one from another great marriage counselor. He says, listen carefully. Tragically, It never dawned on us, on it us, that God might have a design for husbands and wives and a good plan to protect and bless our marriage. That is according to K. Otto. He said, tragically, unfortunately, it never occurred to us, to either of the two parties to marriage, that God might have a design for husbands and wives and a good plan to protect and bless our marriage. That is according to K. Otto. What does that suggest? What he's saying is that before God can be the foundation of your marriage, you must know his plans for your life. You must know his plans for the marriage. You must know, in actual fact, for those that believe in the Bible, Apostle Paul said, for those of you that cannot abstain, go and marry. But whoever that can do like me, he now went further and he said, if you marry, you will have divided loyalty. You have to cater for your wife, for your children. But do you know that you can cross-check with God? Should I go ahead, God, to marry? And God says yes. Will I still be able to cope? And God says yes. That's it. That's a different case. But we never even ask God whether it is time to marry or what we do for God is God. Here is my damsel. Sign it. Append your signature. It is well with us. So I want to say this moment that informing God, making God the first layer of the foundation of your marriage involves 3 steps. Let me quickly look into those so that we can round up with that. It has 3 steps. The first one is to find out and accept God's principles of marriage, which is the original foundation for marriage. Every other principles we have been talking, tolerance, patience, maturity, they are secondary principles for marriage. They are principal foundation. The original foundation for marriage, the original concept of marriage, the original plans for marriage is from God. And we understand it now. In your readiness to follow God's principles of marriage is an indication of making God the foundation of your marriage. If you are willing and you are ready to follow God's precepts, to follow God's laid down principles and guidelines on marriage, you are making God the basis for your marriage, or the concrete one. Let us quickly find this out. According to Adam Hamilton, from the first, the Bible makes clear that marriage is a calling from God to care for, bless, and serve another. I am not quoting pastors this morning. This is not a preaching. It's meant to be for every one of us. Be you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, you are a free thinker. I'm talking to you about marriage generally. And the people have been quoting, after they had gone far in life, they had to go back to the Bible. So at this juncture, may I be permitted to quote from the Holy Scriptures for the success of a good foundation in marriage. Whoever that is watching me, whoever that is following me, do not jettison this initiative. It is not just to discuss the Bible. It is not a preaching. It's about marriage. But let's lay the foundation before we begin to talk about principles of marriage and all those things. There are lots for you to gain. But we must go to the basics. And that is the foundation we have. I want to quickly bring out three clear things about the foundation of marriage. If you want to make God the foundation of your marriage, just go and do these three things. If you can do these three things successfully, God is the foundation of your marriage. Whatever you build on it, it will endure. Whatever that needs correction, God will do it as long as you have obeyed God in these three areas. 1, in Genesis chapter 2 verse 18, where God consummated the first marriage, where God initiated the institution of marriage, he said, and the Lord God said, it is not good that this man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. The help that will meet his standard. The help that will be able to. It is clearly stated here that God instituted marriage first and foremost for the purpose of companionship. So if you are not looking for companionship, if you are not looking for somebody that you can work together, live together, do everything together, you are not ready to abide by the law of God for marriage. And that means God is not the foundation of one's marriage. Hear this from Robert Pagon. The solution to aloneness is not more solitude, but companionship and community. The solution to aloneness is not more solitude. Many people are married today. They are better not married. Are you listening to me? They had siblings, mothers, fathers, with whom they were interacting effectively. Somebody will come, take them as wife. Somebody will come, be married to a lady, only to enter into solitude. You have violated the principle of God's concept of marriage. That it is not good for this man to live alone. We have violated the principle over and over, and this has led to collapse of many marriages. We have mentioned this in episode 1. Husband living in America, wife living in Ethiopia. They have violated the principle of marriage of God. It's companionship. Having said that, if you want to make God the foundation of your marriage, you have to be obedient to God. You have to take God's instruction that says this man should not live alone. The second principle, concrete. We are not talking about you should be patient. Those are principle foundation. But the concrete foundation is directly from God. Genesis 2:24 says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. These are the things that make God the foundation of your marriage. If you are ready to obey God's instruction, this includes being in one and oneness genuinely, in a joint decision, in finance. Whatever one has should belong to the other. Oneness in love, enjoyment, and endurance. When it is rosy for one, it must still be oneness. When it is rough for one, it must still be for oneness. So, the principle of marriage that makes you grounded in God says you should leave your father and your mother that are much more important than any other person you meet in your life, and cleave to your wife or your husband so that you can be one. It's a concrete foundation. It's foundation that can absorb a lot of prayer. There will be a lot of prayer on foundation, as we said. There will be rain, there will be storm, there will be wind. But if the foundation is solid, nothing will happen. So one of the solid foundation in marriage is oneness, companionship, oneness, in such a way that whatever one says, you will meet the other say. We mentioned it. Finally, Genesis chapter 2 verse 25. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. The principle of God in marriage. Are we really naked to ourselves without any secrecy or hidden agenda? Let me say this. Are we practicing freedom of information in our marriages, where there is free access to information without any restrictions? It is easier to fight the government of any nation on freedom of information right. We should have information, freedom to information within husband and wife, the one that has been instituted by God. Do we practice freedom of information without restriction? As long as these basic principles are violated, the basic foundation of marriage is destroyed. As long as we have violated all this, are we ready to follow God's principle? If we are following God's principle about marriage, we are already making God the real foundation of our marriage. There are two other steps that make you, that attach you to God in marriage. We'll be discussing that in further episodes, but the two are, step 2 will be to do God's will. We'll discuss it in further episodes. When you are willing and are ready to do God's will, you are already making God the foundation of. Step 3 will be to fear God. We'll discuss that and move to the remaining 2 layers, which are the family and love. But before I round up, I want to say this. When we say we should make God the foundation of our marriage, we are saying that we should let God dictate. The foundation of a house dictates the building on it. How? If any of you have ever seen down below in your life, what they mean by down below is an undulating land that they try to use the foundation to correct, and the foundation tells them, I can't go beyond this level. Am I talking to somebody? Foundation of a house, in most cases, would dictate and determine the type of structure that will be on it. For example, when you have done your foundation, you have built your house. When you say, oh, I want to raise this house, I want to make it a story building, the first thing building expert will ask you, what were the things that constituted the foundation? How many pillars have you used in building this house? By the time you say, oh, the foundation we just when you know, they will say, there is a level of structure that we can place on this foundation. Meaning that the foundation is now determining, is now dictating the type of structure. It's the same thing. If you have a very solid foundation in your marriage, the marriage can absorb anything. Whatever comes. In marriage, some people have come to confess sins that you will not believe. But because God is the foundation of such marriage, the two of them will come back to God. God will resolve it for them. And minor issues have dismantled a lot of marriages, leading to collapse of marriages because God has no place in that marriage. So when God is the foundation. God will be the one dictating, and these are the little things. God is not having time to be calling you every morning. This is the way you deal with your wife. He has given us these three basic things: companionship, oneness, and openness. If you have real companionship between you and your wife, if you are very open to your wife, and if you and your wife or husband are genuinely one, the marriage will last longer than your expectations. We have seen people celebrating years of success in marriage, 50 years. It isn't that they will not be confronted with a lot of hiccups in marriage, but because God is the basis for their marriage, they will be able to overcome and rise beyond every disturbances. To this effect, encourage us today to begin to think of the solid foundation in marriage, which is a concrete foundation. Then we will add the principles, which is the second leg for the foundations in marriage. If all these things are put together, there will always be a successful marriage. And to round up, for the singles, you are hearing what you need to do to enter into marriage and become successful. To the married, you are hearing what you need to go back to God for and say, God, I want you to take over. The advantage about God is that God can penetrate to anywhere. If in your foundation there are things lacking in the physical, you cannot do much because it will affect the building. But as far as God is concerned, He can go to the beneath of your marriage. He can go to the underneath of your marriage and serve as the blind, the foundation that will not allow, that will absorb every problem that wants to destroy the marriage, that will not allow the marriage to be soaked into trouble of this world, so that it can collapse. As long as God is in it, it will never collapse. God will uphold it. God will make it work. I want to rest my case. God bless you.